Right then, welcome back to the channel. As a few of you pointed out, I said we were going to get pumped by Everton in the preview and all last week, and some of you think that we didn't get pumped. We did get pumped. We scored a couple of, quite fluky goals, I think it would be fair to say, and arguably didn't deserve to win. And look, that penalty on another day, it gets given on another day. Did he dive? 1,000,000%. But people dive and people get penalties. Let's not pretend that that's not a thing. It's absolutely a thing. Maybe how theatrically he dived actually helped us in the end, but alas, we get a point. And then West Ham went on and beat Arsenal in something that I didn't expect. Now, it's only goal difference. That's keeping United in 15th place, and not in a good way either. It would be 16th. If our goal difference was it -7? Superb. Right, let's talk about the positive. Dorgu looked good. Very promising player. Obviously not perfect, unpolished, loads of work to do, but there is promise in what he does. I like how aggressive he is. And I'm not just talking about physical aggression. I'm talking about like there's a desire to put the ball into dangerous areas. He was our most threatening player. The crosses weren't great. You can put that a little bit on movement. You can put that a little bit on how organised Everton are defensively. But he was looking and trying to make things happen. And I think sometimes this United side plays too safe. There was loads of little 1-2s that I was seeing him making. His movement was good. His intent was good. And it was a bright spark. It wasn't like, wow, 10 out of 10 performance. Jesus, like, this is the best kid I've ever seen. No, it was literally like, he looked pretty good. That's it. Like, that's the top and bottom of the praise here. It was, he looked pretty good. Not even slightly getting carried away. Not going to say, like, oh, it's Roberto Carlos. Nothing. It was just, he looked pretty good. And that's about as good as I can give you after that yesterday. Physically, he was the only one that could compete. And, maybe that's because of the work that we know he does with a coach in Manchester called Seedorf, where he does one-to-ones with him. And it's a physical stuff. Loads of, like, core strength stuff and explosivity. You can see the work. Now, if that's the player that they've identified and that's the sort of player that we're going to get to play for Ruben Amorim, sweet. We'll be happy days when we sign like another 7 of those. Don't hold your breath for that happening by June, though. Number 2, Bruno steps up when we need him. And he does time and time again. Like, Bruno might be one of the most disrespected players in Premier League era. I heard a stat during the game yesterday that he's the first player in Europe to make 50 chances and make 50 tackles. That's insane. Like, if that was anybody else, they'd be absolutely touching their cocks about him, wouldn't they? I didn't think he had a great overall game, but he delivers moments. In games when you really need him, he absolutely steps up. I thought he was a lot better in the last 20 or so when he moved into that kind of deeper role. He started to dictate play a little bit. He got on the ball, and he started to make things happen a little bit. Is that a case to maybe argue Casemiro's a lot more finished than certainly I thought he was. There's 50 problems at United before you get to Bruno Fernandes. Is he the perfect solution for this system? I'm not sure he is. But am I bothered about him while we figure out everything else? No, not in the slightest. Number 3, subs made an impact. The subs made us more threatening going forward. Chido Obi grew into his cameo and definitely threatened. He didn't really do anything in the grand scheme of things, but he did, 20 minutes-ish, something like that. He basically was involved as much as Haaland was in twice as long. Now, explain to me how that is possible. People talking about, oh, he ain't ready and this, that, and other, and he might not be ready. But if he's not ready, Haaland ain't ready. So what are we holding him back for? Start giving him more minutes. And I'm not saying start him, right? Start giving him more minutes. You've seen him now for 20 minutes. He arguably did more in that 20 minutes than Haaland did in whatever it was that he ended up getting. He is earning 20 minutes, 30 minutes in games. you might see something out of him, and he might develop. You know, the goal scoring record for Højlund, and not just the goal scoring record, because that can hide a lot of problems. The overall performance from Højlund is just on the floor at the moment. Garnacho, as he generally does, comes on and because of the positivity, because of the relentless attacking nature that he plays with, he looked good off the bench. And he looked like he was going to help us get something. As I mentioned in the review yesterday, there are moments where you think, I don't have the confidence that he's going to score anything from where he is. It was him and Xerxes went into the box last 5 minutes or so, and my heart rate didn't go up by 1 beat per minute because I was like, this is going to break down. And he did. But he was still impactful, and he was still looking dangerous, and he looked like he was going to make something happen. Number 4, papering over the cracks. The game ended semi-respectfully, and I think that clouded a lot of people's thoughts after the game. I was annoyed, really. The first half, and maybe even the first hour, the first half especially, United got bopped from pillar to post. We got away with that yesterday. Everton absolutely stuck it on us. Totally stuck it on us. We are in the bottom quarter of the league. The bottom, not let alone the bottom half, the bottom quarter of the league. And Everton have just climbed out of being in a relegation fight. We're not seeing improvements in the dynamics of the system. We're not seeing improvements in the players' understanding of the system. We're not seeing improvements in the attitude and physicality of the players. I'm not expecting a quick fix, but I'm expecting a quick improvement. Or at least some improvement. Do you know what I mean? I understand things take time and you have to be patient. But when you're seeing like a lack of desire to get to second balls, a lack of just like real basic stuff, it's at the top end, the tactics and things like that can be quite complex, and how you deal with the evolving shapes and systems and overloads that happen within a Premier League game, I'm sure give you a headache. Gary Neville did a real good sort of debrief of his own time at Valencia, and I always think about this all the time when I'm thinking about my own coaching and when I think about what's going on in the Premier League. And he talks about how obviously his very unsuccessful stint at Valencia went, and he talks about how he played Valverde and he didn't play the formation Valverde expected him to play, and then in the middle of the game he changed something and Gary couldn't even figure out what he changed and didn't know how to react to what he changed, and he said he just sat there like a rabbit in headlights, and he goes, that's when he realised there was, you know, serious levels to this game. And I think about that all the time. And I think about that trying to evaluate my own performance and what's going on as a coach. But I think about this all the time when I'm trying to think about what's going on with Manchester United in Premier League football. And formations, systems, philosophies, they are the guiding principles and frameworks of what you're trying to do. It is the individuals and how those individuals perform within that system which is what makes things happen. That's it. There is, you know, you have to be adaptable in football. And you have to be adaptable in the Premier League, because the Premier League is probably one of the most varied systems because of the money, actually. Because the money has attracted people from every different background of sport. It's probably got the most random array of philosophies coaching within the league. And probably one of the most varied nationality makeups in the league. You know, there's players from literally across the world. And I think that gives you a very interesting mix and flavour that you might not get in some other leagues. You know, the Spanish league has got quite a bit of South American influence, but it's heavily Spanish influence. And actually a lot of the league plays quite similar football. France is quite varied. It's got a lot of North African influence into it. But there's a physical nature to the French league. The German league's quite similar. Everyone plays a similar kind of gegenpressing kind of thing. Everyone wants to play a high line. Everybody presses high. It's quite technical, it's quite fast, but it's quite poor defensively. Like there's certain makeups and characteristics that you can broadly apply to leagues. Not to every team, there's always going to be outliers, but there's broad strokes for leagues. The Premier League, I think the only thing that you can broadly stroke on the Premier League is the physicality and the intensity. I think tactically the Premier League is quite varied, and systematically the Premier League is quite varied. And I think that requires adaptability from coaches. I'm not saying Ruben Amorim has to change his approach. I am saying Ruben Amorim has to figure out ways that you can collect wins, because you might never get to your entire plan A. You might never get there. You might never get full, complete understanding. And at some point, people are going to start to say, look, mate, results matter. You can have your philosophy. We can sign you players that are going to play your philosophy. But you're going to have to make do with imperfect circumstances at times. And that's going to require you to be adaptable. Be adaptable. And that's not saying abandon your philosophy. That's not saying go and try and be the new Tony Pulis. That's saying find a way to win, because you're going to have to find a way to win. And finally, defensive liabilities. The entire defensive line, maybe not Mazraoui, but Dalot, De Ligt, Maguire, all poor. Maguire at fault for everything that we conceded. Onana doesn't give the back line confidence. He seems to have retreated to his line rather than trying to dominate his 6-yard box. There's been a little bit of a decline in De Ligt's recent performances, which is a little bit concerning. We felt like we were second best physically in every duel yesterday. And again, it was almost easy for Everton, especially in that first half. I think Everton mentally got to the hour mark and decided that at 2-0 it was enough to see the game out, and decided to see the game out. If they'd have gone for a third, they might have got it, and they'd probably come away with all 3 points yesterday. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Give us your thoughts on the game. I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.